Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Now, we're taking a look here today at Audio, which is Audius, and it's an incredible coin that just took off completely here recently. I actually reviewed this a few weeks ago when it did its first pump from like $1 to $1.20. And now here today, it's taken off, right? So thank you to my members, my community members and patrons more specifically for recommending that I cover this. Really do greatly appreciate your support and obviously reaching out, letting me know this is something you want to know more about. Now, if you're new to the channel, I always like to educate on best practice, help you understand, good entry points, teach you to trade for a lifetime instead of just for one day. So I think you're going to learn a thing or two here today, but just know I'm not a financial advisor. This is always for educational purposes only. You should do your own research and make sure you take ownership of your own trades. Don't blame anyone else but yourself if you make mistakes. And the reason why is because you need to own up to the fact that you might not have done all of your research or might not have done a very good analysis before jumping in. We got to be careful. We got to honor support and resistance levels, and we'll look at that here today, of course. If you're interested in maybe following my trading style or my trading patterns, I share all of my trades, entry points, take profit targets, sell targets with my community members. Link in the description below for that. And we also have a Telegram community too, so check that out as well. We're quickly coming up on 700 members, which is excellent because we just started this about 3 months ago. So things are on the up and up here. So thanks again for your support. Really greatly appreciate you. And if you like what you see here, feel free to like and subscribe. No bell notifications, all that good stuff. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right to it. Let's check it out. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look here today at Audio, which is Audius. And just before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first to get a quick baseline of the market, just so we know kind of what's going on, because every good trader will understand Bitcoin and its movement patterns, and obviously how it correlates with the coin in question, which is Audio. So let's take a look at that. First of all, though, I want to preface that I use TradingView.com desktop application, essentially the same thing, and I use the paid versions. I use the paid version because it gives me more than 2 indicators present at one time, which is extremely helpful. Now, if you'd like some help with that to see if you like it or not without paying a lot of money, I have a link in the description below in case you'd want to reference that. You get a free month. Check it out in your own time. All right, moving forward, I want to show you here what we're dealing with Bitcoin. First of all, we have the simple moving averages. Now, I want to preface this and let you know that the simple moving averages are very, very important when it comes to Bitcoin, or just say the 4-hour chart or the one-day charts, because that's what the industry leaders are utilizing, right? So those who control the market essentially look at this day in and day out. And as we can see here, we've got the simple moving average working as a support level. Right, and that's the 50. So that's the 50-day simple moving average working as a support. Furthermore, we also have a major resistance at about 50,000. That's going to be tested eventually soon, I feel. I would say within the next week, we'll probably see that. The current price action right now is trending between these two channel of about 45,200, so 45,200 upwards of about 46,500, right? So it's trying to test 46.5. It will likely do that again soon, but that appears to be kind of somewhat of a resistance level. We've also got a support here at about 44,200. So there's kind of some odd, off-kilter support levels, or typically they're usually at round numbers, like 500, 1,000, etc. But they're finding these strange little pockets, so to speak, but it's just because these are the times in which the 4-hour charts are closing. We look at the one-day chart, it's a different situation altogether, obviously, but still very, very similar in a sense where it's working itself into this ascending wedge pattern. And I drew that pattern because of the fact that we are making higher highs and higher lows still. So even though we have no higher high here, it was technically a lower high, we have higher lows still. Okay, so it basically means that the bull run should still continue. We shouldn't see much further retracement. Be very surprised if we did, and it should trend upwards of about 48,000 here soon. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. That's kind of what's going on there. Moving on to Ethereum, a very similar situation. It just has different support and resistance levels. It's got resistance about 32,500. Right now, as you can kind of see, though, the 50-day simple moving average was a resistance, but it might be a support level soon. So if this 4-hour chart can, or this 4-hour candle can close above that, we've got 2 hours left in this trading cycle, then we'll likely see that work as a support and be off to the races. So Ethereum is essentially performing very similar to Bitcoin, not as aggressive with its increases or retracements, but it is still very consistent. And the 50-day simple moving average is essentially working as that ascending triangle pattern, right? So it's going to have likely a breakout soon, And I would venture to guess we're going to see a nice long position start trending towards 3,400 in the near future. Moving on to audio. Taking a look at audio here. First of all, this is a one-day chart. And just to preface, we have the simple moving averages, right? Obviously, they're both well below the price action. They're working as support levels, which is fantastic. We've also got a potential for a golden cross here coming up as well, where the 50 intersects with the 200 in upward fashion. That typically drives the price up even further. At least that's the general concept. In my experience, I would say it's 60-40. Yes, it works out more often than not, but not as often as you might think. Regardless, that doesn't matter here as much because the price is already overextended, right? So we've got some significant growth here in the last 24 hours alone. Now, bear in mind, this candle right here just closed about 2 hours ago, right? So we're 2 hours into this, 4-hour time frame, so to speak. But generally speaking, this all happened in the last 4 hours, okay? Also note as well, the RSI is obviously overextended about 85. There's commonly a likelihood of the price going sideways and or retracing, but we want to take a look at major support and resistance levels first before we worry about that. In fact, why don't we go ahead and take a peek here and see where we're at. So right at about 270, 271. Now we can say, hold on, what is that? 268, that's potential support. And then what we'll do is we'll look at the 4-hour chart too and see if we can identify any others. There probably will be some, but right now I'd say if the price comes back down, it should bounce off of this price action here at about 270, roughly 270, okay? But just note, we are not in all-time high territory yet. Obviously, once we surpass a resistance here soon, which could be right around 320, actually that is exactly 320, we'll mark that guy as well, which is exactly where the price rejected here today. And I'll explain what I mean by that too, because obviously you can see back here, you see there was 3 candlesticks. First of all, it closed as a support level right here, and then it closed as 3 rejections 3 days in a row. That works out to be a pretty strong rejection. And then look at, try to test it again here on the 12th of April, got rejected. And of course, here today as well. So 318 approximately is going to be the major resistance. So it should work itself in the channel between 318 and 270. Okay, so if you're going to set a stop loss, put your stop loss at 268 and obviously see how the price responds to that. If it comes down and bounces off, that might be a good consideration to add to your position, or just wait to see what happens, because it could retrace, it could go lower. It doesn't mean this, the support of 270 is not foolproof, but it's more likely than not going to hold true as a strong support. Moving on to the 4-hour chart, we can kind of see what happened here. Obviously, 12 hours ago or 10 hours ago, the price ramped up pretty vicious here from 160, what is that? Yeah, 166 to 270. So a full dollar, about 62% in a matter of 4 hours. That's some pretty significant growth. Obviously, RSI is overextended. We got a strong convergence on the MACD at 5 a.m. So that's right here. So let's go ahead and mark that. Kind of see how that layers on with the 1-hour chart. And why don't we go ahead and look at that here now. So the 1-hour chart, I always like to look at the Ishimoku cloud. So if you're new to the channel, the Ishimoku cloud is an interesting thing. There's a lot of moving parts to it. First of all, if you have it enabled and you're like, I don't see what you see, you want to disable all of these things here, because it gets really noisy when you have all the lagging spans and the leads in there. I prefer just to use the cloud alone because it's a little more sensible. It's more straightforward, especially for beginners. Me being advanced, I use it sometimes for other things, but ultimately I just like to quickly look at the 1-hour chart, keep it simple, and see when the price is above the cloud, consider it a buy signal. When it's below the cloud, consider it a sell signal. And you can see right here, we got an indication right at about 2200 Pacific Standard Time. So yesterday at 10 p.m., we got the price above the cloud. So the price broke above the cloud there. And then as you can see here, about 6 to 8 hours later, we had a convergence on the MACD and the 4-hour chart. And then coincidentally, what do you know? The price exploded. That's quite common for a lot of altcoins, especially when Bitcoin's been ramping up for, 15 days, 15,000. It's gone up quite a lot in about 2 weeks, right? So when that happens, altcoins kind of are like they're prepping for this explosion. And then we'll see these things happen. This happened all the time before April 17th, the first major Bitcoin sell-off, because Bitcoin was on its way. It was to the moon, as they would say, right? And now that we're back on that track, we're seeing a lot of altcoins have the same function. So identify when you can identify On the 4-hour chart, the MACD convergence, where the 12 intersects with the 26 in an upward fashion, that's priority number one. Priority number two is to identify where the price is at on the Ichimoku cloud, and if it's above the cloud, and the 4-hour chart says the MACD is about to converge, open a long position, put a sell stop just under, and see what happens. Almost always a guarantee in this kind of market for it to take off. Let's take a quick look here at TD sequential. See what's going on. Geez, can we even see that in the full screen? Hold on, let's go ahead and do this. There we go. So TD sequential is nice about counting exhaustion, right? Now I can say right now, just based on that one sentiment alone, we are in a state of exhaustion. So first of all, what it does, it takes the fourth previous candlestick, and if it's above that, it counts up. If it's below it, it counts down. So here, essentially, this number 5 is higher than this first one. So of course, it's going to keep counting, right? So even though there's ebbs and flows, it essentially tells us that at this point, the bulls are potentially losing control because of the fact that they've been continuously pushing for about 9 candlesticks or 9 hours. Bear in mind, this is still effective on other time frames. I prefer it on the 1-hour chart. But if you see a 9, there's a good chance that the price will likely retrace. Oftentimes, don't get me wrong, and during strong bull runs, this matters nothing. It'll still continue upwards. But we've already identified that we are overextended and the price is really high on the RSI. The probability of continuing upwards is pretty low because look, we've already been rejected off of the price at about 318. Okay, so we've really just got to see how the support holds up here when the price comes back down first. If the price holds above support, then you might want to consider again adding to your position. And if it comes up, pumps up again and gets rejected again, then you might want to be careful and move up your stop loss, because it could retrace back down on you. Either way, that's just kind of something to look for. So right now at this point, everything's kind of telling us that it's overextended. It's working itself into this channel, but the probability of it continuing upwards is lower than it is to continue, right? So just keep that in mind. Moving on to the 15-minute chart, let's go ahead and take a quick look at the EMA and VWAP. And this is an indicator that I share with all of my community members. So if you're part of my Patreon account, my premium Patreon account, you'll know that this is an option for you. And I provide it to my members because of the fact that it's a really good tool to help you understand good buy signals and sell signals. Now take a look at this. This happens more often than not when we have a convergence on the 4-hour chart, right? On the MACD. We've already identified that. I left this line here. Okay, so somewhere along this, this 4 hours, we got a convergence in the MACD, and just before that, we also had, the price was above the cloud. So we've got 2 indicators present. The very last thing to kind of triple check everything, make sure you're on the right track, is just say you're looking here, you're like, okay, great. I got a convergence on the MACD intersecting in an upward fashion. I've got the Ichimoku cloud up over the cloud on the 1-hour chart. And here I also have the price in which is above EMA and VWAP, and I have more than 2 consecutive green bars above that line. So what I want to get here is if you are new to the channel, the EMA is this red line. When the price is above EMA, it's considered a buy signal because you can see the price keeps getting rejected at the EMA, right? So it just keeps on going up and up. That's awesome. That's a good consideration for a bull run. That's basically telling you that the bulls are in control. The VWAP is a volume weighted average price. That's this blue line here. That basically tells us the volume is expressing a price of, at least right now, it's telling us it's 281. But back here, the price was below, therefore it's considered a support. All right, so when the price is above the VWAP, support. When it's below, it's a resistance. But the bottom line is what I'm trying to get at here is the fact that when you have the price bouncing off both EMA and VWAP, as you can see, that's a consideration for a long position because of the fact that the bulls are in control. But well in advance, before you even get to this point, what you pay attention to is 2 consecutive green bars closing above EMA and VWAP, because that tells you there's 30 minutes of confirmation from the bulls that are also moving above support and in the same direction, right? So why swim upstream when you can just coast downstream? That's what this is. This is essentially just, inflating your inner tube, getting in there. Don't even worry about a paddle. Who cares? You just coast, right? You're not gambling. You're no longer, betting against the house. You are the house in this case, right? And that's because you're looking at all the indicators and you're understanding the language that they're speaking. The bulls and the bears, or the industry leaders, are utilizing all these same things. So why shouldn't we, right? The key is to make sure you get confirmation before you jump in arbitrarily and not buy the bottom. Try not to buy the dip unless it's a major support level. There's no reason to chase the bottom. Yeah. Either way, what I'm getting at here, big picture, is that I foresee Audio retracing back down to support of 270, possibly trying to pump up and get up to 318 again, but I think we're going to see at least 3 to 6 hours of retracement or sideways action before we can make an informed decision. So the price breaks below 270. I would consider trimming your position or setting a stop loss just below that point, whatever you're comfortable with, gaining, of course, because I'm sure you're in the green right now. From if you were down in like a $1.60, $1.70 range. I mean, in fact, comment below. Let me know when you took entry, because this is one that a lot of people did. Because the last time I reviewed it, I think it was like the very first time it pumped up, which is right back here, like $1.25. So good for you if you got in here already. And if you're considering taking entry, just be very careful, be cautious, because there's a lot going on here, and we've got to just honor the support and resistance levels until they're broken. The price breaks above, just bear in mind, price breaks above 317 and it closes in that candlestick. And I don't mean just breaking above and retracing. I mean the candlestick actually closing above that line. Then you can consider taking entry. Just make sure you move up your stop loss just below that point to ensure you mitigate your losses. Okay. So hopefully you found this beneficial. If you did, please feel free to comment below. If you didn't, that's okay too. Perhaps consider joining my Patreon account, where I actually share all of my signals with my community members. And of course, that includes best practice, entry points, take profit targets, sell targets. I do this day in, day out, pretty much 7 days a week. Occasionally, some weekends I'll take off because I do have personal things I need to take care of. But for the most part, I am doing this every single day. I've been doing it for a long time, and it's just something that I enjoy doing. So I hope, again, you find benefit. Thank you so much. Drop a comment below if you get a chance. But I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll appreciate your time. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.